That's very direct and precise answer. I love that.
People who can crack IIT are the people who do hard work.
Who has not seen the code or not seen SDLC life cycle? The world is getting tougher for them. What is the core role of a product manager?
If any resume is more than one page, it's out.
No one is going to pick such a resume. What did you see different at Microsoft and Walmart?
Amount of learning which you can do in a small company will be equivalent to 3-year learnings in a big organization. Where India can change is building application fast. Difference between the salary parity has gone away. India is also changing.
Now it is time for us to innovate, build, and ship from India. So it will be more make in India for the world.
The same kid is doing in US, why the same kid can't do in India? The laborious work of human, it has been automated. Instead of selling your product, sell a problem to them. There's a problem which you're trying to solve for them.
And I don't think they will be able to do it autonomous car in India. So Rahul, I think you have worked with several big organizations and you are working with a company who's providing SaaS-based solution. But still, I would like to start from the basics. Where are you from? Where you graduated, right? So what you were learning those days, and anyone who's going to watch this video and preparing for IIT, because it's still the number one institution in India. What will be your suggestions? So let's start from the childhood and then talk about your journey for IIT.
I'm basically born in Delhi, born and brought up in Delhi and studied at IIT. I think one thing which I would say IIT is more people who can crack IIT are the people who do hard work. It's not about intelligence, it's more about your perseverance for those 8 hours of IIT exam. At my time, there was a 8 hour main exam. You have to sit in that room and you have to give that exam. You should have capacity to do that part as compared to the more about intelligence. And that's a thing which have carried me through my career also, like the hard work and determination, like putting those efforts of 8 continuous 8 hour 10 hours stretch that helps any organization. If you are there, like at least in India, there are enough talented people. Talent is not a problem, it's the problem of how to make sure that you are putting the talent to use. To use, you have to put a hard work to differentiate between you and the other people. Talented and you think I'll get everything. I do not think people should think about that.
One thing that's very common about definitely the persistency and the perseverance, commitment. And one common thing that everyone talked about, just wanted to validate it through you. They said like from 10 itself, then made up the mind, okay, they need to target IIT.
I have a very interesting story. So I did a drop also. After 12th, I got a rank like a DC, and but I said like I want to do IIT only. So I took a drop and then I prepared again and then I cracked the IIT. So like I was very clear I want to go to only IIT. And at the time I also was very clear that I want to do something in computers. The course which I did was like mathematics and computing. It was not very famous. I took help from a lot of people to understand which is the course nearest to computer science. I didn't get really top 500 rank, so I was not lucky enough to get a computer science. But mathematics and computing is a course which is 90% overlapped with computer science. But at that time, people were not aware. Now, a lot of people are aware because of internet and stuff. I was able to get through that course.
So how do you think, like, because the overall pattern has changed when the AI, internet, a lot of like material available online, right? So at your time, I would say, I'm assuming like you must have gone through a lot of books and probably took mentoring from some of the professors. But in current time, right, where the chat GPTs, a lot of text-based models are available, do you think that this has become easier or more difficult because there is a lot of material available? So in terms of confusion, any thoughts on that?
That's a problem with GPT. Like people are using GPT everywhere, but it's creating a lot of confusion also. Like I was seeing one of the posts couple of weeks back where people say like now they have generated so much code for using AI. Now they need more developers to fix it.
Any tool that your organization is currently using for code development, like which, like there are so many, right? Copilot and all.
We use mostly Claude, like what we figured out, like, but at the same time, you need more expert people to even code using Claude. So we have to train our SG ones how to prompt Claude to make sure that it's writing the better code and it's doing that part. If you're not doing that, if you're asking, okay, let's write something, it will write the code which might work for one thread. If you put to production, it will definitely fail. So you have to make sure the game is again the same. Like earlier, the person was thinking and then writing the code. Now person is thinking again and then asking Claude to write the sub modules. If people think, okay, I do not think, I just want this particular app and I'll put on Lovable or any of those solution, They might get a version which might be look like a MVP. One user is using it, amazing. But if you put the prod to the prod and like millions of people are using, then it goes for a toss.
Anything outside cloud are you using? For example, let's say that you mentioned about Lovable, right? Windsurf and Cursor AI. Do you use any of those?
Cursor AI is a one. Like you can use any of the model in that. Cursor AI as a one, but Claude as a model. Then we also use OpenAI to come up with designs for our product. So what we do is we ask all our PMs to put their thought process on the OpenAI and the current UI, and let like discuss with the OpenAI that what should be the design, what should be the thing look like if you are going to consume this information. So it gives multiple options. It tells, but it's a good start. Again, I'm not saying like we are moving everything to all these systems. Then it moves towards how if you give to designers, they work over it, they fine tune it, they make it any of these system. If they will give up basic things, they will not give you new design system. They will not give you in this coding practices. It will give you all the sub modules. It will give you all the basic functionalities. Then you have to convert into your design systems. You have to convert into your coding practices. Then only you can put in the plot. So it will reduce the effort in terms of doing some brainstorming. And it currently before GPT, if I'm going to come up with any new BRD or any new product, I might discuss with three PMs, do some brainstorming. Instead of doing, I'm doing that brainstorming with GPT, and GPT is giving me some ideas. That's a conversation which is happening. It's more like that. It's not like I'm outsourcing that work to GPT.
Now, coming as a follow-up to this one, right? You mentioned that your team is using Claude and your team is using Cursor AI and a lot of other tools for, I would say, developer productivity or the design productivity. But at the same time, do you see anyone who has not seen the code or not seen even one SDLC life cycle, right? So I'm talking about fresh grads. Do you see the world is getting tougher for them? Because for us who have coded, made things in production, have seen how the production fails, right? And then burn our nights, I would say, right? But anyone who just started, right? How do you see like their career? And I'm not going to create any fear. I'm just learning from expert like how they are seeing.
I'll be honest, I've seen there's a transition in how we are hiring SG1s. SG1 is a job which was like earlier, if you think 3 years back, there was a technical lead or technical assistant who used to come up with what are the sub modules and like break down the whole project into smaller piece of the code. And that SG1 used to write every small piece of the code, different SG1s. Now that SG1 job is taken care by a GPT or a Claude or Cursor AI. What this means they need to uplevel their game. They need to start thinking like instead of just focusing on how to write better code, they need to start thinking that "Hey, this is a problem, how they should break this problem into smaller pieces. And there's a person, someone else who can write code and might write better code. But the question will come up how they can think about what are the sub modules, what are the things they need to do, how to optimize certain things and stuff as compared to writing code. So the era of people learning Python or other things might go away, but it will also the thing which they need to focus is how they can make sure people are thinking. In all the colleges, people should not teach about things. People should give the project and say that I want to understand your thinking process, how you
Okay.
break this thing into smaller things and how you'll build the different building blocks. I'm not worried about if the code will work or not. I am more worried about what are the sub modules, what are the modules you have created to make sure that your understanding is correct. So if you go to real world and I throw you a problem, you can able to break into smaller chunks of work which will help you to succeed.
Right. So the fundamentals are not changed, right? So which means the thought process, the only thing after coming out of college, we were expecting, okay, someone should know Java at least, someone should know Python. Now I think we as a hiring managers, we would be thinking, okay, whether this person should be able to use AI and give me the final product, right? So whether the person knows Angular, React, Python, Java, that doesn't matter. But if that person is able to produce end-to-end product, if we are enabling the person with AI. But that makes sense. But the thought process And I think they should be able to do things faster. Now, moving to the next topic, Rahul, I know that you work with several big companies. We are going to talk one by one. What is the core role of a product manager?
Input in very simple thing to understand the user problem and make sure that every product is solving that. It's not about writing the PRD. It's like if there's a room, there are different people sitting. There's a chair for a product. There is a chair for the user. That chair should be filled by the product manager. The product manager should understand. Let's say we want to build a lovable kind of a product. Who is my ICP look like? What is the problem they are facing? Like we know that this a product have been built. Like both of us are not from the lovable. Both of us are not building lovable. So we can talk about, and it's a very famous
No, but
product.
definitely, I think it reminds me some interesting ceremonies that I used to like part of, right? I'll not say I was leading them, but I remember there was an empty chair, right, in that ceremony, and that is depicting, okay, assume here is our customer sitting or the user sitting, right? And they do it very passionately, right? Even there are 4 5 person from the team, if they are standing up, but they were like my lead was running this ceremony so dispassionately. Okay, this is the chair for customer. Let's assume that he's sitting or she's sitting here. Let's talk about it. But so this definitely reminds me of some prior things. But coming back to the product manager part of it, right? I know it's very like someone who's a product when it is not ready, right? Someone who's like making everyone think about it, right? That how lovable gonna look like, what are the possibilities are the street possible, right? But coming back to in overall SDLC, right? I am thinking like just after when customer starts thinking, a product manager's job would be to think about the design, think about how it is going to scale, think about several things, right? Where the MVP, first phase, second phase, third phase, right? All those things. So just go into the details and talk about with some of your prior examples.
There are two parts to product. One is making the product. Other is making people to use your product. If you think, if you go in the market, 80%, 90% of the people, PM will say that I'll make a great product, people should use it. And those 90% product fails. Think about a problem statement, which is most important for your user is create an MVP around that point. Take to 100 people shamelessly. Do not think like I am from some big company and I like people do not care about me and like I'll be get judged if I talk to everyone. Talk to people, ask them to use your product and get the feedback. MVP is something which you create, then you take to users. Understand. Do not create a phase 2, phase 3, phase 4 plan because it should depend on how people are using your MVP. What are the features you like? What are the things they might be interested, they might not be interested in. When you build your MVP, take like ask people these are the 3 more things I'm going to build. What is the biggest pain point? Ask, and then the one thing which I do is if you ask 100 people, 100 people will suggest this is a problem they are facing, or this is the thing which they want to do. Ask why they want to do this. What is the problem behind this they want to solve? So then 90% of the time you will converge into one problem which will help you to make your product better. If you're building a product which solves someone's, let's say, I want to do this in XYZ, your product will become very fragmented because you're talking to 100 people, the 100 people will say in different ways. Ask what is the core problem they want to solve. I'll do this for you. Tell me what is the problem you're going to solve with this thing if I do this for you.
You talked about MVP. Now, what are the different tools, right? And what are the different ceremonies you use, right? So anyone who's preparing for the product manager role, right? Because I know that this role is critical, and with the like AI thing, when people are moving fast, this has become even more eminent role, right? So just talk a little bit more, like if someone is preparing for it, right? What are the tools and technologies, and how do they learn? What are the different learning materials available on the internet?
See, I started a very simple thing. If you want to be a product manager, think about what is your favorite product.
Okay.
Think about how you are going to improve this product. Like, what is your biggest pain point? Why you want to use? Simple example, like you have in the India, we have Zomato and Swiggy. People have different choices. They use one, why they don't use another? If they can very clearly articulate that part and put that thought process, they are ready with the first step, which is thinking about what is the problem this product is solving for me as compared to reading, because the problem is the reading will give you theoretical thing. I can tell you, you should read about circles or all those frameworks. But to build that framework, you should think about, this is my favorite product. I use Zomato every day. Why I do not use Swiggy? What is the thing Zomato gives me which Swiggy is not giving me? They are exactly solving the same problem. It's a better UI. It's a better thing. It's what is better in that. And if I'm the PM, what is still the biggest pain point which I should go ahead and solve it for this particular product? Then think why the PM sitting in that company is not solving this. They are talking to people like you. Why they haven't prioritized this thing versus any other thing which they are working on? Is it the only your problem or is something else you are missing out?
So coming back to this thought process, right? Let's say that if I want to act as a future product manager, and between Paytm and PhonePe, right? These are the two different applications, and both are doing really fine. But just because I worked at Paytm, I know Vijay Shikhar Sharma directly, right? And that's the reason I started using Paytm. And I'm so much engaged with this application that I never moved to PhonePe, though I installed this when there were some benefits and there were some differentiations. But right now, there are no such differentiation. I would say both provides equally good services. But I still see whenever I'm going to visit a small merchant, right, it becomes really easy for me to use phone Paytm and then do the transaction immediately, right? For the customer base like this who are hooked up for a different reason. So, what do you think? Like you as a product manager, what do you do differently?
It's a like very tricky thing because now that person is hooked to a product due to certain reasons. And it can be like a personal bias, it can be due to that first mover advantage, it might be due to different things. Now the question come up, okay, think beyond this. This is a product of Paytm, and what else it can solve, what is else it can do, so that people become, oh, this is something which I'm missing in my product. Create a FOMO. Simple example, like I still miss, someone should build in phone pay, Paytm or Google Pay. I want to understand where I'm spending most of my money. Like I do a 10 rupees to 100 rupees transaction every day in every other hour. At the end of the month, I would want to know that how much I've done on grocery, how much I've done on Zomato, how much I've done on something else. I can do my budgeting. And someone solved it. Instead of UPI, let's create a RuPay. Some app would have been doing this part for me. It gives me insights like what should I cut on my budget, where I'm spending more, how I can do better, what are the things. So think about like if Paytm is doing a transaction, why they are doing transaction. What else they, if I have this data, if I can provide certain information to the users, which can help them to improve their daily life or improve their expense management. Now,
Now I can think more. For example, if I'm like using Paytm for so long time, and let's say if someone tells me that there are so many frauds happening, right? But if you use phone pay, so we give you guarantee. Let's say if there are any fraud happens, so we take the insurance and we will take care of your fraud, right? We will return it back to you, right? And maybe I think if Vijay is going to listen this feature can make retention even better, right?
it's all the game about, not about the, do not think about transactions. So one of the my favorite thing which I used to tell in my interviews, and I used to give product interviews for the Google Maps. I never talk about Google Map improve the routing. I said like use this data to create better routes because you have the data
Exactly.
because the people are flowing. You know
Right.
like how I'm going to travel in the morning, I'm going to travel in the evening. You can automate all the red light, all the signals. You can make better roads. If you are coming with a new tech park, what kind of a road it should have?
Yeah.
If you are doing a urban planning, use this data to improve it.
And I know that someone in Bangalore, I know that one of the founders is actually working with Google Maps team and a lot of this data mapping, right?
Same.
Working with Bangalore police.
Bangalore, they have
So,
now automated a lot of red lights on the, at least in the central part of the Bangalore, where they take all the sensors and they have done that part. They couldn't do it better, like if they get the data real time from the Google.
exactly.
Every phone is an Android phone in India.
Yeah.
And if they have a real time data, how the traffic is flowing.
Yeah.
Let's say everyone is going to Chinnaswamy Stadium because of the RCB match.
Yeah.
Like all the red lights, all the roads which are coming from Chinnaswamy can have longer durations of the signals, whereas every road which is going towards Chinnaswamy can have very short burst because then the whole traffic is moving fast.
And definitely, and I think that's what AI has been leveraged so far, right? For more like a automation thing. And I think when it impacts real world problems, there's nothing that can beat that option. So we talked about how to get into to the IITs. We talked about how to get into the product managers. Now tell me more. If someone is preparing for a company like Walmart or Microsoft, how should they prepare and how to get the first interview at least scheduled?
See, first interview schedule, it depends. See, any company will be receiving hundreds plus resumes. If you're going through the simple route, like I'll apply on the website and wait for the recruiter to come, very difficult to get it. You have to send out a personalized message to the hiring manager why you should be hired among anyone else. What is your strength which can help you to be better as a PM or an engineer in his or her org? What you bring to the table as compared to them. So that there should be a very clear cut message. There should be a clear cut cover letter, and your resume should highlight. Your resume can't be very generic, like I launched this product, blah blah blah, and all those things. It should be like what is the impact, what is the user problem you have solved, and how it was, why it was important. Think in that famous framework star. What is the situation? What is the task? What action you took? And what is the result? When you're creating your resume, make that very clear of every line because these are one page. Every word which you're putting is very critical. That's like gold. Every word is a gold. So think why this word is important, why not. Just do not feel that I handled a team of 10 people with 9 engineers, one designer.
No one is going to pick such a resume. Yeah.
Yes.
This reminds me most of the time when I see profiles, right? For example, we are hiring for multiple positions in India and US. We have clearly called out that we need someone who's like good at DevOps, good at Java, good at one of the clouds, good at handling scalable products. Now, if someone is showing me, okay, I'm very good at Power BI, but yes, I'm good at DevOps as well, right? So this creates confusion in my mind, right? Where someone who's saying, okay, Anil, you ask about Java, it's ticked. You ask about DevOps, it's ticked. You ask about cloud, it's ticked. I meet three out of your four parameters, and I'm not creating that noise in my resume, right? I'm talking about that I have done SQL migration and things like that, which is not making sense.
Yes.
So I
Because
completely buy your
the
point.
problem will happen is if you create that noise, you might get shortlisted because of the whole keyword mapping and stuff. Then the question will come up when the people will ask you that question, like how you've done this, and they ask you a second level question, you will fail. There's no point of telling a story in the resume which you can't defend. Whatever you are writing should be very important, very clear why you are writing this. And if anyone asks you any question on any of those lines, on any of those words, you should be able to defend for hours. How, why you have done this? Why not anything else? Because people do not worry about like your skills. People are more worried about if you've written something, they might want to grill you more. And if you can't defend, you're already out. It doesn't
Yeah,
matter.
my boss always says less is more, right? So sometimes you have to be very precise in terms of explaining what you can do and where it overlaps the road. So whenever you are hiring, Rahul, what do you see as a good resume? Because I've seen resumes from 1 page to 27 pages, right? So, but what do you think is the right size resume for 10 or 12 years experience person?
It has to be one page. Why? Because after 15 years, if you, as a leader, what I'm expecting is prioritization. And if you can't prioritize a resume for me in one page, and if I throw you 100 problems which you need to solve, how you'll prioritize? If you give me dump of all the data like you've done from day one of schooling till now in 10 pages or 2 pages, I'm not going to read this. I want a prioritized list. So that
Right.
itself is like a, if any resume is more than one page, it's out because they do not know how to do prioritization. It doesn't matter
Exactly.
one.
That's very direct and precise answer. I love that. That if
Uh,
you have more than one page, so which means you are just telling the story that no one is interested to listen, right? You can prioritize and make it very direct. When I compare, like, so you talked about the mantra, how to like get yourself visible in terms of your resume and in terms of your outreach with the right cover letter, which means you should also do some research. It's not like one resume if it's 100 openings, right? and you reach out to someone who's working in the organization, maybe hiring manager or the talent acquisition team. What did you see different at Microsoft and Walmart? Because these are the global companies, and I know that someone who will be watching this video, definitely one or the other time, they might have dreamed about the companies like Microsoft or Walmart. So, what do you think, like working at that scale, what is different in these organizations?
In Microsoft and Walmart, you will learn from other people how to make things better, how to, because they have already solved this problem. There are enough scientists, enough researcher in those companies. There's a lot of peer learning which you can do, but you might not be coding at all or very less because the work is very stable. Things are moving in certain direction and stuff like that. In the startup, you learn from, like, if you're moving from a big company to small company, you'll, whatever you have learned, you'll start applying in small companies because there you have to develop these things. You'll be learning on the go. Now traffic has suddenly increased 10x. What should I do? That will be something which will be learned and people will be, you have to do it at a runtime. Big company, you will, there'll be documents which will return even before pushing to prod. If this happen, what should do, this happen, what should do, and there'll be experts who have done this 100 times. You'll be just following their orders. You'll learn the best practices in the big companies. In the small companies, you'll apply those best practices when you are firefighting things. So
So
that's
basically, at early of your career, if you get a chance to work with any startup who's like really turning into a unicorn, I think you would recommend that is better than working with stable companies like Microsoft, Google, or things like that. Will that be the conclusion?
definitely, definitely.
Okay.
Why? It's very simple. Like, there's a bias. I worked in both of them. The amount of learning which you can do in a small companies, like a 6 month learning, will be equivalent to 3 year learnings in a big organization because this lot of work which has been decided. There's a hundreds and thousands of engineers sitting and coding, and they are experts. You might
And
have,
sense of ownership also, right?
yes,
To some extent.
yes, you have a very like a small piece which might be going into the prod, but in the small organization, you are the only one.
Another question, Rahul, that I was going through some of the podcast and some of the news, right? There are so many things happening in US, right, that talks about AI, be it any frontier model, be it any innovation happening on the infrastructure side. Do you think that India is doing something in that sense, or will that be ready in next few years, or do you think like we are running really behind?
I'll say that AI is in two parts. One is building the core models, other is building applications. Because India is bit in different position. The models are getting built in China or the US part, where they are doing deep research about LLMs or all these AI part. Where India can change is building application fast. What I have seen in startup world, like there are lot of companies which are building applications which can solve problems. If
Yeah.
you do, let's take a very simple example. What is the problem OpenAI solves for you?
So as a user, I would say like it can help generating text, right? And I use in a day-to-day a lot of documentation, I would say. And then I would say as an architect, I use this capability to like do the document processing for many of my clients and the decision making.
Like it's a very small, like it's a very small set of the problems which can it's solving you because you're giving and you're telling. And let's say there's an application which sits on your laptop, which do exactly same, and plus it also understand about your company, which goes deep, which is very personalized of your organization and something like that. That will be much more helpful. So like currently OpenAI is more like a V1 of Google, which was generic. It generate a lot of text, it generate a lot of things. It like used to Google, which used to generate a lot of results. After that, Google build a shopping, Google build a flights, Google build a hotels, Google build jobs, and lot of other things.
Yeah.
Because the if you want to go build a deeper applications, you need to go deep.
Yeah.
Generic solution will give you 70%, 80%, but not like 100%. So that's the difference where I see in India. I've seen a lot of people who have a lot of founders who have developed two different kind of companies. One is ML infra companies because all these things will require to develop and put all these things on Google Cloud or the Amazons or Azures of the world. You need expertise on deploying these models and stuff like that. The second part where I've seen a lot of companies working is on applications. The application might be very simple, like how you can teach a kid, how LLM can be a teacher to a kid.
Exactly. And in recent, in some of the applications, we have seen that India as a user, right, or the consumer, or someone who's on leveraging these models, making applications faster, right? So that's one way I have seen a lot of initiatives going on. And then recently, Mr. Modi also announced of building chips or manufacturing chips and GPUs in India, right? So not sure when that will be real, but at least some efforts in that direction.
Like if you build all these applications, you need infra to support that part. To support that, to infra need, you need chips. And because of all the politics, geopolitics, you need to have your own data centers. You can't rely on like global mechanisms of getting all those chips. So you need that industry. The question come up as a will be manufacturers or will be something like a developer. Be developing our own chips, which can be faster
Exactly.
than TPUs or GPUs of the world. Which I think if we provide enough funding to few of these colleges, they might do it. They because they are same kids from IIT, NIT, or which are going to Nvidia or Google to build the chips. Why they can't do in India?
I met some of the Indian kids, right, and they are doing great things. They were talking about GPUs, they were talking about their H100, H200, right, DGX servers and all. So really, I think it's more about the enablement by the government and organizations. Definitely, the same talent can be leveraged for doing in-house or in India, right? Those kind of things.
It's all about building the patience because these
Yeah.
things are not like today we start building, tomorrow we'll get it. Nvidia is built in 27 years. Google is built in 30 years. You
Yeah.
need that patience. You need that infra to support and like money to support them. If you don't do that, it becomes a challenge.
Yeah. And that connects to the next question of this topic, right? That these days I've seen there are more people interested to go back to India for like good salaries that they were missing, right? And then living with the family back there, right? And then there are very few, even I have seen cases on my team who said, no, I don't want to go to US even at first sense, right? So are you also observing this shift happening? And just because,
Yes.
yeah, maybe just give your thoughts and what few scenarios that
First
you
of
can
all,
correlate with.
first of all, the difference between the salary parity has gone away. Like if you're in India and at least to Europe, you're pretty much on par. What you are earning in India and what you're earning in
Yep.
US if you're really good. In Europe. In the US, definitely there's some, but again the problem come up. So if I go to different country, there's so much regulations and so many other things which also plays in the mind of everyone. And in India, they have flexibility in terms of taking breaks and doing whatever they want. And other thing is now, I think if you see our India is also changing. My parents, they were doing government jobs. I studied with a private, like when I was growing up, the Infosys was the biggest company, or the TCS was the biggest company which was providing services. Now, when I started my career, Microsoft and Walmart's were the big companies who were setting up their office in India and the work getting done. Now, India is
Yep.
producing unicorns which are solving for the world problem. See Zoho, Freshdesk, or even InMobi kind of a company. I've seen Sarvam, who is doing a lot of things on the AI side. I've seen a lot of other companies which are doing amazing work on the AI side. So the thing is coming back. Thing is like people were struggling when we were growing. Our parents were struggling for the food on the table. We people now when we were thinking we should have a comfort life. When I started my career or you started your career, like we should have enough money in the bank, we can live a good life. Now kids which are growing now, they have good life. Now they can
Yeah.
focus on building startups, which they can take risk. That's the difference. And the US might have hit that stage very early because their economics are different, our economics are different. So if you think most of the things which are getting developed in US or any other part of the world, 80% of the workforce is Indian or Chinese.
That is the biggest takeaway for me from this discussion, right? that just because our generations have done good, right? Now it is time for us to innovate, build, and ship from India. So it will be more make in India for the world.
The same kid is doing in US. Why the same kid can't do in India? That's a simple question. Now they are not worried about the food part. The food is always on your table. They are not worried about like they have to walk for 20 kilometers to go somewhere.
And that's where like I can correlate in people are saying that Gen Zs have no patience, right? And they react too fast. I can correlate this now that because Gen Zs don't have too much dependency, they do not need to like pay loans, hefty loans that our generation would have taken because that problem has been solved, right? Now they just need to focus on doing something that they are interested in, which they love to do, right? So it's not about the generation gap, it is about what they start with.
Currently, kids who are growing up, they're seeing their parents earning good money. They're not worried about like if I do not earn money, I have to beg. My parents are good enough to support the money. If you think, let's take a very simple example. Two biggest companies in the world are Apple and Microsoft. Who were the first investor in both of their companies? Their parents, because they had the wealth. Now, Indian parents have the wealth to invest in their kids.
That makes sense. Now, moving to the next one, Rahul, where you see most of like in terms of Gen AI, agentic AI, right? And then since as I mentioned that I was part of this NVIDIA workshop, they already started talking about super intelligence, right? They are saying like we just made this live for you to use agentic AI while we are just refining it super intelligence and it will be available soon, right? So you will become the user of it. Where you see the journey is lying, right, from GenAI agentic, and where you see it has already created a lot of impact.
Take us like a generic example about how what I see in the currently in the Gen A part of the thing. It's very simple. Like the laborious work of human, it has been automated. Like how machine did in 90s, computer did in the 90s, that a lot of labor work which people were doing is automated. Like they do not need to sit to next to the machine, the code will run and it will execute and it will do the same thing. Now, let's say both of us are having conversations and there's a lot of insights which are getting generated. Some AI can do that part. Similarly, let's say I am a doctor, I'm talking to you, and you give me all the things. My mind will think about you might have these many things, and whereas AI can also suggest these can be other potential things. Now it's assisting me. So these are the use cases which I'm seeing more like it's more like a assistant or automating the things which I might be doing manually earlier, like reading books or updating some documents and stuff like that, which it has done automated. I do not think so. At least whatever models are available in public spaces, we are close to that super AGI part of the world. Of course, all the companies will claim it because they want to raise next of the money. Otherwise, their stock will tank. As a power user of GPTs, also the GPT-5 is plateaued out. If you think there is not a much difference, like when we moved from GPT-3 to 4, people were wowed. Did you see the same wow when the GPT it
No,
moved from 4 to 5?
definitely not.
No. So that it means we are hitting the plateau. If there was a super AGI exist, the GPT-5 should have been so amazing. It should be like somewhere in between. OpenAI need to raise more money. They need to say that they are
Exactly.
working on
They
the
have to create, they have to continue that momentum. Okay, something great is coming soon, right? And then obviously we are not going anywhere. We will be
same,
in the industry for next 10 years and we will
same thing if
definitely.
you think about Tesla. Like for last 15 years, they've been promising us there'll be a car which can drive automatically without thing. But still, like they're struggling. In US also, they can I think that recently they got permission to drive automatically, like the Vermeos of the world, the taxi, robot taxi on the freeways. Recently, just now. And that's
Yeah.
only US where the traffic is so much clean and so much regulated
Exactly.
in the
They
lanes.
have the lanes and everything. I sit in one of those in Phoenix last month. But yeah, that's not as efficient as a driver could drive. But yeah, I know that where they are heading to and they are not getting approvals very easily to drive in other states. And when the company, like when the country like India, right, which even as a human being, you cannot predict what's going to happen. I don't think they will be able to do it autonomous car in
The
India.
AI,
So
I think the more helpful will be the AI is, as we were discussing in the initial part of this podcast, about it can be act your companion. You can think about 10 things. AI can also bring 10 more things. Then you can brainstorm, which is more important. As compared to like what people think about super AI or the simple thing. Autonomous comes.
Exactly. Right.
15 years, Tesla has put billions and billions and hundreds and billions of dollars.
One interesting thing that I noticed about your profile, Rahul, that you also help in a lot of like your product and go to market strategy, right? Where you like, because I work in sales, right? Sales and delivery. So I just wanted to understand a little bit, Rahul, where you saw the first sale, right? Where you see like how to do the first sales and what are the mantra for that.
First sales is super difficult. Like it's like a first blood you're taking, and the simple mantra is like if you're selling to any company, instead of selling your product, sell a problem to them. There's a problem which you're trying to solve for them, and that problem should be prioritized for them. And if you talk to your customer, just listen. What is the problem they are facing? Why they are facing that problem? And when you are giving a demo or when you are building your product for them, tell them like this is a problem you thought about. This is the one of the your biggest problem. These are the 5 problems, and my product solve these 3 problems very clearly. Instead of giving a very generic thing, again what we were discussing in one of the earlier question, giving a very generic thing about resume. I think what are the customer identify what are the customer pain points are. Identify why those pain points are critical for them. And if you solve that problem, what is the metric it will help them to move? Then when you're showing a demo and when you're doing negotiation, just bring back those pain points and focus on them as compared to showing a generic thing. So that's where I've seen most of the success. If you like customer or realize customer, these can be their pain points. There can be two kind of things. The customer will tell you that these are my biggest pain point, or ask question like if your product solve XYZ, how you're solving this? What is the problem you're facing? What are the challenges you are facing in that? Because sometimes customer do not know. That's my been.
Right.
You've been
So
more like
no,
you've been
I
talk.
think that completely no, that completely quantifies that how easily you are able to make customer realize the problem, right? If you continue to make those efforts, then I think selling your solution or services becomes much more easier, right? So it is not you as a salesperson focusing more on your solution or the services, customer to identify the problem. I think that is a takeaway, right?
Yes.
Okay, so with that, I would say, Rahul, so these are some of the points I wanted to like discuss with you on this podcast. I really loved your clarity of thought process and some of the important points. Even this is the first time I took note during the podcast, right? Because I'm also learning a lot in terms of these conversations, right? Interacting with the industry leaders, and this is helping me to like implement in my day-to-day job. And that's what this all about the AB talks. So any conclusion or the last few points that you want to tell to the viewers and your audience?
First of all, thank you for coming me on this podcast. One thing which I would love to tell to all the people is do not get afraid. Like human species has been evolving. Every time there has been challenge, people solve that and come overcome. Currently, I know a lot of freshers and a lot of people are worried about the jobs using the AI part. Think these are the human mind is so ahead of the system. It'll come up with the new things which it can do. So do not get
Yeah.
worried about that part. That will be one of the thing. I think we discussed it multiple times during this conversation also. Yes, that's the one thing which I would love to re-emphasize for the people.
Sure. That's really good, and that's one of the fears that these all AI and hype had created that it is going to take jobs, but it is not going to take jobs. It is already creating a lot of different kind of roles like prompt engineers, AI architect. So definitely with you on this thought process. So with that, we will close this conversation for today, Rahul, and I keep visiting India. So anytime when I'll be in Delhi around, I'll just give you a ring and then we'll wait over coffee. So
Yeah.
thank you so much for
Thank
coming on this
thank
podcast. I love talking to you.
thank you, Sanil. Bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.